What would you do on a perfect day?
I think a perfect day would include getting to spend time with family and getting to go do outside type
What would you do with
things.
family?
A lot of the memories I had growing up with my family are like camping and doing outside things, and both my parents are certified scuba divers, and so is my brother and my sister.
Okay.
And so I think going down to the Keys and having a beautiful day on the water, going scuba diving, that would be kind of probably what we would do together.
Yeah. You've scuba dived before with your family?
Yeah,
Okay.
I got certified when I was 13 years old.
Oh. So is that like a family trip you all do every year, or?
We've tried to make it to the Keys almost every year. There's a mini season, it's called, for lobster, where you're allowed to go diving for lobster that 2 days before the main the commercial season opens.
Oh, okay.
So yeah.
Okay. What else would you like to? What would be perfect? What you would do on a perfect day?
I think. Let's think. What else would I want to do? I think just spending time with my family is fun too. We have a pretty close family.
Okay, this is like it's looking. Okay. What else besides scuba diving would you enjoy with your family? Remember, this is the perfect day.
Perfect day.
Yeah.
Perfect day. The sun's shining. We really like playing games together. Especially with like my mom and my nana and some of my sisters.
Do y'all have like family night or?
We did growing up some, but usually we find any reason to get together we can.
Yeah.
And so we'll go over to Nana's house and Popeye will cook dinner, and then we'll play games like Balderdash or some of those wacky games that are just they are a lot of fun.
Yeah, those board games.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else you can think of that you might be interested in doing on a perfect day? Maybe showing your family something new.
I kind of like traditions more than I like new things.
Yeah.
So like I like things that we've done for a while, and kind of building on those traditions.
Yeah.
And things like going to the Keys every July and different things like that. That kind of.
Yeah. Do everyone go usually, or?
Not everyone. We have a really extended family, and so usually it's kind of the smaller nucleus family of like me, my mom and dad, and my younger sister. We didn't even make it down to the Keys this past year. I actually went up to go with my dad out of Sebastian to go diving this past year, but we got rained out, so we weren't even able to go lobstering. So
that sucks.
yeah, it wasn't the best day. Took my friend who I just moved in with a couple months ago, and kind of the first time we'd ever hung out and went diving, and went out. We weren't able to get out for the first day of Sportsman's Day, so we went out for the second day of mini season, and as soon as we got in the water and found the right spot that we wanted to go lobstering, we got back in the boat to start putting our scuba stuff together, hooking up our tanks and regulators and all that, and there's just a wall of water that you could just see coming towards you, and we're like, okay, let's wait this out, see if this is as bad as it's supposed to be, and it didn't work out so well. So we ended up having to go in, and you're following boats ahead of you so that you can keep track of where you are and where you're going, because you can't see the shore anymore because it's just water all around you. and then even the boats in front of you start to disappear because it starts raining so hard.
Yeah.
And
it never makes you nervous?
When I'm in the boat, it's not quite as nervous. There was a time before that when I was lobstering with my dad, and we were out diving with a hookah system is actually what it was, not the scuba diving where you have the tank on your back, but it's hoses that go to an inner tube on the surface.
Okay.
And
but that limits how deep you can go, right?
that can limit how deep you could go. We had enough hoses so that we could go like. Yeah, we have enough hoses to go somewhere between 30 and 60 feet, depending on how many people you have diving with it. And when we came up, the thing about it is you don't really run out of air. With a tank, you have an air gauge, so you're only allowed to be underwater like so long before you run out of air. Well, with this one, it compresses air as you're breathing it, so it doesn't have like a tank that you run out of. And so we were down there a while, and it just got a little gray, like it wasn't as bright as it was down there. And I said, okay, something might be going on upstairs, then we need to go check out. And so I said, let's go up. So we go up, and the boat had moved. We had someone who was on the boat with us, John was his name, and he was kind of following us. And then he put out the anchor, and it got stuck. So he couldn't pull up the anchor because we said, hey, come get us, we're okay. You know, come get us. And he said, I can't, you have to swim. He said, you have to swim. And I mean, he is a ways away. Yeah. And as he's doing that, the rain just comes, and I can't see where the boat is anymore. Like, wow, it's just gone. Like my dad is maybe, it's like from me to that doorway, and I can't see him. Like, it is pouring down rain. And then so we start. It was a little interesting. It got our hearts pounding, to say the least. And so I start swimming because I think the boat's this way, and Dad starts swimming because he thinks the boat's this way. And so I'm like, I don't know.
And you end up further away.
I'm a hard-headed guy, and so I said, okay, you know what? Dad might be swimming the wrong way, but I just want to be with Dad. That's the main thing right now.
Yeah.
If I'm gonna die out here in the ocean, I'm gonna die with my dad and not have to face Mom without him because I swam the wrong way. So I start following him, and I mean, it was like from me to you, and I could barely see his legs swimming ahead of me. And so finally, out of nowhere, it felt like we just got to the boat. You know, he found it, and so we were okay. And then you know, he's thrown up over the edge of the boat just because of how exhausting it was to try to surface swim that far, because we didn't have any compass on us to swim under the water. And so we had to surface swim that whole way in like 3 to 4 foot swells into the ocean. And it was one of the stories we didn't tell Mom when we got back.
Yeah.
Does
she know today?
She does.
Okay.
She does. We told her about a year later what happened when we were talking about some other lobster stories, and that one came up, and Mom said, "What happened?"
Oh wow.
So.
Okay. Well, tell me why is tradition so big to you?
I like connecting to things that have happened before. You know, I like my mom and my grandma both do genealogy for our families, kind of seeing where we've come from, and you know, just kind of understanding heritage and understanding that history aspect of it is just kind of something that's been really important to me, and things that I like to maintain and things that I like to keep. And there's a little bit of an old soul in me that likes to have that you know, that heritage and that tradition. And I think tradition kind of plugs you into that. It kind of connects you to those that have gone before, or to times before.
Have you discovered anything amazing looking back on your history? Any famous people in your life?
I don't think there's anyone really famous. Not in the immediate history. You know, I
think on down the road back a lot ways, back, John Milton is someone that I think we've found that we're related to. We at least came from some Miltons that were in the England area, over in the same area he was. My family is from the U.S. It's kind of people are, well, where's your family from? Well, I'm Scottish. Well, I'm German. Well, I'm Jamaican. Well, I'm Puerto Rican. Well, I'm Dominican. I'm any of these. I have to say I'm American. And we know of over 60 some odd relatives that fought in the Civil War, and where they fought and what their ranking was, and different things like that. And so my family kind of got big into finding their grave sites and honoring them, and setting up markers. Been to some grave sites that didn't even have tombstones, that we paid for tombstones to lay over their grave sites so that people would know who's buried there. And so just kind of like the expansiveness. You said someone famous. My grandfather, Pete, we call him. His name is Marvin. I don't know why we call him Pete, but that's his name. And I call him Popeye. And his great-grandfather is Henry Doss Marshall, and he is a famous potter from Georgia. And so some of his pottery is collector's items now. And so they've paid a pretty penny for some of the pieces of his pottery. So my grandparents have some pots that my grandfather's great-grandfather made, that has his marking on the handle of HD. And then his son, William Joseph Marshall, also was a potter in the area. And so he has something. So we have some things that have his WJN. So my grandfather's grandfather, some of the things that he did. And so that's kind of neat to have some of that heritage and some of that connection. So, so he's a famous potter. Mason, or whatever it's called. So
you have a lot of pottery in your genes.
Yeah, some of that old Georgia clay.
Yeah.
So.
Pretty interesting. Okay. Anything else you can think of that you might be interested in doing on a family outing? Any other traditions?
We tend to drive a lot.
Yeah.
On our
Road
vacations. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't ever fly in a plane until I was 13. But we still went all over the southeast of the nation before that. So I've been to Branson, Missouri, Arkansas, Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Washington, D.C., all these places, but we drove all of them. And we usually would go camping too. And so there were 3 families, the Rads, the Rileys, and the Miltons, and we would all go at least once or twice a year on a camping trip, somewhere in Florida or somewhere in the southeast, kind of within a reasonable driving distance. I think Branson was the furthest we ever drove, and I think that was a 24-hour trip.
Wow.
Which was a long drive.
That teaches you patience.
And you kind of learn how to live in tight spaces with people. And that was just kind of the way life always was. My parents actually just drove up to my sister's wedding earlier this year to Chicago.
From Florida?
From Florida.
Wow.
And so they drove all the way up in my dad's big truck. It's like a Ford F-150 King Cab or something. So like the 2 bench seats.
Okay.
It was my mom, my dad, my older sister, her husband, and their 2 kids that are both under 3 years old.
Oh.
So there are 2 car seats, an adult riding in the back of the King Cab, and the 3 adults taking up the whole front bench in the front of the King Cab.
For 24 hours?
Longer than 24 hours. They didn't drive it all at one time. They made a stop or 2 along the way. They drove the whole thing, and they didn't kill each other. They got home alive.
Did you fly that trip?
I got to fly.
Yeah.
I was going to ride with Mom and Dad, and then Mom said, well, Christy and Glenn decided they wanted to come to the wedding, that they were able to get off work and do different things. Yeah. And so because of that, I got kind of kicked out of the car, but I didn't mind it so much